Sitting adjacent to Muirfield on 300 acres along the famous golfing coastline off the Firth of Forth in North Berwick, Scotland is the Renaissance Club. Famed American architect Tom Doak had always embraced old country course designs. And in 2005, he finally received an offer to build a Scottish course which would be named the Renaissance Club. A group of American investors obtained a 99-year lease from the Duke of Hamilton on a 300-acre portion of the Archerfield estate on the East Lothian coastline, where they wanted Doak to create a private course worthy of major championships. With only 4 holes by the ocean, undulating terrain, thick rough off the fairway, and numerous wooded areas, the Renaissance Club is not a traditional links setup. With hardly any penalty last year for missing the fairway, the course favors length off the tee along with accurate long iron players who can flight their ball in the wind and avoid 3 putts on the huge, undulating greens. With 20 of the top 30 players in the world making the trip to North Berwick, the field for this year's Scottish Open will be its strongest ever and will rival that of many of the other elevated events from earlier this season. With it being a co-sanctioned event, the number of PGA Tour players and DP World Tour players is evenly split, with 75 players in attendance from each. Motivation for many will be high, as 3 spots in the Open Championship are up for grabs to the top 3 finishers who have not already qualified, provided they finish in the top 10 at Renaissance. With world number 2 Jon Rahm choosing to prepare on his own for next week's Open Championship, he is the only eligible top 10 player not in attendance this week. World number 1 Scottie Scheffler returns after missing the cut in his first appearance here last year. He will look to extend his amazing streak of 18 consecutive finishes inside the top 12 on the leaderboard. Other notable PGA Tour members teeing it up in Scotland this week include Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, Victor Hovland, Schauffele, Max Homa, Matt Fitzpatrick, Jordan Spieth and Wyndham Clark. Tony Finau, Keegan Bradley, Cam Young, Colin Morikawa, Jason Day, and Sepp Straka are the other eligible, non-injured players in the TOP 30 that are skipping this week. Here is our strokes gained analysis off the tee. The effects of potentially windy conditions really shouldn't impact how one views performance off the tee this week at the Renaissance Club. In gusty conditions last year, the driving accuracy rate was only 49%. Yet it ranked as the second easiest course in missed fairway penalty. A big part of the reason for that is there just aren't many hazards to trouble players off the tee. Greens were still hit in regulation 59% of the time. If the winds are a factor, everyone will struggle to hit these fairways, which rank on the narrow side at only 31.5 yards wide on average. Though atypical of link-style courses where shorter hitters can use rollouts on tee shots to make up for lost carry distance, driving distance appears to be a definite advantage at the Renaissance Club. Last year, the average driving distance was 295 yards, which is well above the tour average. And with the reputation of playing longer than its yardage, along with 4 par 4s over 475 yards, a drivable PAR 4, and 3 lengthy par 5s, distance off the tee brings many advantages. There are also a couple of longer carries off the tee into potentially gusty winds that favor the longer hitters as well. While shorter hitters like Aaron Rai and Tommy Fleetwood can definitely have success here, last year's leaderboard was filled with longer drivers of the ball, including Schauffele, Kurt Kitayama, Thomas Dietrich, Dean Burmester and Rasmus Højgaard. Approach. On approaching the green this week, players will have a variety of options. If winds remain on the calmer side, longer players off the tee will have the advantage of hitting higher lofted irons into the proper quadrants on the tiered greens. Whether winds are high or not, thanks to Doak creating a firm surface with no bunkers or water in front of the greens, all players will have the option to utilize the ground game to run their ball onto the greens. When the weather cooperates, hitting these greens is not even a remote issue. Out of the 77 players to make the cut in 2021, only 13 of them had a GIR rate of under 70%. 15 players were above 80%. That being said, with the greens being so huge and undulating, proximity to the hole and positioning approach shots relative to the pin, and leaving an uphill putt is vital. The course definitely favors strong iron players, as in that same year 7 of the top 15 on the leaderboard had gained at least 4.6 strokes on approach. Similar to off the tee, last year's windy conditions allowed the Renaissance Club to play much tougher in every area, as it ranked as the 4th toughest course to gain strokes on approach. With last year's event being the only one with shot length, a whopping 48% of approach shots came from outside of 175 yards. Around the green and putting. While scrambling and performance around the greens would seem to be important on most links courses, this is another stat at the Renaissance Club that is weather dependent. In 2021, with calm winds and players hitting so many greens in regulation, it didn't factor in much. Out of the top 20 that year, only 4 players gained more than 2 strokes around the green, with 7 of them actually losing strokes. But if greens are firm and the winds increase as they did last year, the undulating nature of the green surfaces will repel shots into the pot bunkers and runoff areas, and that will produce chips off of tight lies. The green complexes, in a word, can be described as adventurous. They are firm, large, and well contoured with a variety of possible pin positions. Last year these greens ranked as the 5th most difficult on which to gain strokes. Putting inside 15 feet, especially in windy conditions, will be crucial. Some players have commented that the breaks are very difficult to identify, while others have said they look much more severe than they play. One thing is for sure. The speed will be much slower than typical PGA Tour courses and may cause some players to start slow while they adjust. With such large green surfaces, lag putting and 3-putt avoidance will be huge this week, as last year's tournament saw one of the highest 3-putt rates on tour at 4.91%.